Let's go to West Africa now and the recent coup in Niger. ECOWAS, the 15-member regional economic body, has been meeting today in Nigeria to decide exactly what to do. It gave the coup leaders a deadline to reinstate the democratically elected president Mohamed Bazoum, but that was ignored. And the new leadership in Niger says if ECOWAS tries to intervene militarily, they may bring mercenaries from the Wagner Group on board to help them fight. Niger, of course, also has support from Burkina Faso, Guinea and Mali, those countries also under military rule. You'll know, of course, that the Wagner Group has been, until recently, fighting alongside Russian troops in Ukraine. It also has a footing in a number of African countries. So let's speak now to Veli Mbele Kasompisi. He's the co-founder of Afrocentric Dialogues. Thank you so much for joining us. What's going on in Nigeria is fascinating. What we're seeing African leaders trying to sort this out. ECOWAS issued a deadline to Niger's coup leaders. They've ignored that. ECOWAS meeting today, they're saying all options are still on the table, including potential military intervention. What do you think the realistic options are for ECOWAS, and what would ECOWAS be best placed to do in a situation like this?
Yes, yeah. Oh, thanks, Sally. And maybe to start off by saying that this is a very convoluted situation, right? And which has got very profound geopolitical implications, right? And I think it's important that we understand it as such. So there are a couple of things that we should perhaps point out which are a bit very bizarre, right? In that ECOWAS issued a statement condemning the coup, right, just after it happened, and imposed a number of sanctions on Niger. And as it did that, it also included in the resolution the possibility of military action, right? And only after it has done that, it then sends a delegation to Niger to go and engage in some kind of diplomatic bargaining, right? Which is very strange because if they thought there was an opportunity for diplomatic bargaining, why would they issue a statement to a sovereign state and imply that there might be military invasion? That's the first thing. The second thing is...
is it a sovereign state, though? Because the democratically elected leader has been toppled. So surely that changes the scenario.
It is still a sovereign state. Remember, your sovereignty is not determined by whether or not your leader is still in charge, because your sovereignty is more determined by your engagement with external states, right?
Okay.
So as things stand now, Niger is still a sovereign state. And if it was not a sovereign state, ECOWAS was not going to bother sending a delegation, right, to go and meet. So it just shows you that the sovereignty has not been tampered with, right? So that's something important to maintain. But here's the other thing. The chair of ECOWAS, which was the point I was going to make, which is Nigeria and the Nigerian president, in addition to the sanctions that have been imposed by ECOWAS, then Nigeria on its own, right, imposes a wave of sanctions. And in addition to that, it does that with a very strange type of approach, because as things stand now, Niger and Nigeria have a bilateral, which allows one to supply electricity and the other to access water resources along their border. So some of the questions you ask yourself is that why would they take, both ECOWAS and Nigeria, action that might jeopardize both regional security but also the bilateral relationship, right? But here's another thing as well that is also a bit bizarre here. In doing all of this, right, then there is the position of the African Union as well, which just after ECOWAS issued its statement, issued a similar statement. Now, the bigger question that one is raising here is that in many instances where you've had these kinds of situations, you would have a situation where they would send what is called, a council of elders from the African countries to go and intervene here. But there is something very strange, at least in my view, with the ECOWAS intervention in Niger, is that there seems to be a haste, right, to go towards the option of military intervention.
It's interesting.
And that's something that Yeah, because
it's an interesting point you make. And just to jump in on your point, because it's such a good one, because so often when we see coups in Africa, other African countries get slammed for not taking quick action. And the AU is useless, it's not going to do anything about it. Here we're having a situation where ECOWAS has come out quite strongly, saying again today, all options are on the table, including possible military involvement. I mean, could this signal that ECOWAS is deadly serious about sorting out potential instability? Because Niger is not isolated. It has the support of Mali, Burkina Faso, and also Guinea, which I think all have military leaders. And they're saying they've got the backing of the Wagner Group. So suddenly that starts looking less like one country going out on a limb and a small, almost a breakaway. So what do you think is the best way for this to play out? Because I agree with you when you say you're going in with a hard line saying, oh, we could military invade. That's problematic from the get-go, likely to polarize everyone. But how do you signal to the coup leaders that what they've done is unacceptable because they have deposed a democratically elected leader? And unlike other countries in the region, Niger was actually quite stable up until this point, from what I've read.
Yeah, even the issue of its stability is relative, because over 40% of the people in Niger live in absolute poverty, right? So it's a question again as to stability from whose perspective, when over 40% of the population.
I think compared to other countries, sorry to jump in, compared to other countries, but as you say, still very poor.
I'm with you. Yeah, I'm with you. All I'm saying is that it depends what measure you are using, because it should matter to the people of Niger. But here's the thing, right? We talk a lot about the Wagner Group, but what about the interest of France and the US in Niger, right? Because the US has got the biggest military drone base in Niger. And we know the uranium that France has been extracting from Niger for over 40 years. So that, in my view, is the factor that is deliberately being ignored. And I suspect this is why there is so much haste to bring in the military option and not exhaust the negotiation, because there are other interests that are being threatened here, you know, and which are Western interests. And one suspects that ECOWAS may be finding itself, you know, serving as a proxy for those interests, given who funds ECOWAS and the African Union.
Well, I mean, you know, it's so interesting because when the whole Sudan coup happened, Wagner was present there as well. And, you know, we want to see African leaders resolving things on their own. And you're right about, you know, Niger's new leader has, I think, just this week accused France of destabilizing the country by freeing terrorists who are planning an attack. France says this is categorically not true. But it does seem that ECOWAS is faced with a very difficult situation on its hands. And you know, you want to believe that a regional economic body is going to act in the best interest of the people of that region. But I guess all options are still on the table, and we're going to have to wait and see. I suspect that this could take some time to play out. It's been great talking to you, and let's hope we can chat again when there's a new development, because there is a lot at play. There are a lot of undercurrents, really important, great analysis there of what's going on. Veli Mbele Kasompisi, he's the co-founder of Afrocentric Dialogues.